Good day, everyone. My name is Sydney Lucero, and today I'm going to report about muscle movements, types, and names. So, before we proceed to the types of movements, we will first know these terms. Every muscle is attached to bone or other connective tissue at no fewer than 2 points. These points are the origin, which is attached to the immovable or less movable bone, and insertion, in the other hand, is attached to the movable bone. And when the muscle contracts, the insertion moves towards the origin. But some muscles have interchangeable insertion and origins. So body movements occurs when muscle contracts across joints. So now, we will discuss of the most common types of body movements. The first one is flexion, decrease the angle of the joint, or bending. So this type of movement brings the two bones together. This is an example of a flexion. The woman where she lifts her feet at the back where the bone almost meet. Second type is the extension. Increases the angle between bones, or straightening, the opposite of flexion. This picture indicates extension where the woman is straightening her leg. When extension is greater than 180 degrees, it is called hyperextension. The third one is called rotation, movement of a bone around its longitudinal axis. This can be a movement toward the midline of the body or away from the midline of the body. Saying no while shaking your head is an example of rotation. Another type is the abduction, moving a limb away from the midline. Fifth is the adduction, which is opposite of abduction. It is the movement of a limb toward the midline. The last one is circumduction, which is a combination of flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction. It is an orderly combination of shoulder movements so that the hand traces a circle and the arms traces a cone. There are also special movement that occurs only in few joints that don't fit in the previous categories. The first one is the dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, up and down movement of the foot. As seen in the picture, dorsiflexion is standing on your feet and plantar flexion is pointing the toes. In terms of the hand, dorsiflexion of the foot corresponds to extension of the hand, while plantar flexion corresponds to flexion of the hand. The second one is inversion and eversion. Turn the sole medially and turn the sole laterally. Inversion involves the movement of the sole towards the median plane so the sole faces in a medial direction, while eversion involves the movement of the sole away from the median plane so that the sole faces in a lateral direction. Third is the supination and pronation, turning backward and turning forward movement of the rages around the ulna. Supination occurs when the forearm rotates laterally and the palm faces anteriorly and the rages and ulna are parallel, while pronation occurs when the forearm rotates medially and the palm faces posteriorly. The last special movement is the opposition. Metacarpal 1 and the carpals allows opposition. This is where you move your thumb to touch the tips of the other fingers on the same hand. To move the skeleton, the tension created by the contraction of the fibers in most skeletal muscles is transferred to the tendons. The muscle that has the major responsibility for causing a particular movement is called the prime movement. The muscles that oppose or reverse a movement are antagonists. When a prime mover is active, its antagonist is stretched and relaxed. The synergists help prime movers by producing the same movement or by reducing undesirable movements. Fixators hold the bone still or stabilize the origin of a prime mover, so all the tension can be used to move the insertion bone. These are the example of interaction of the skeletal muscles in the body. A muscle that crosses the anterior side of the joint produces flexion. A muscle that crosses on the posterior side of a joint produces extension. A muscle that crosses on the lateral side of a joint produces adduction. A muscle that crosses on the medial side of a joint produces adduction. Naming skeletal muscles, there are cues that can give you easily the muscle names and action. First is the direction of muscle fibers. Muscles are named in reference to imaginary lines. When a muscle name includes the term rectus, meaning straight, its fibers run parallel to that imaginary line. And when we see the term oblique, it tells you that muscle fibers run obliquely. Relative size of the muscle. When a muscle name includes maximus, it means largest, minimus means smallest, and longus means long. Location of the muscle. When a muscle is named temporalis and frontalis, it is in the temporal and frontal, means that they are named where they are located. Number of origins. When a muscle is named biceps, triceps, or quadriceps, it has that numbers of muscle. Location of the muscle's origin and insertion. Attachment sites, for example, the sternocleidomastoid, is from its origin sternum, clavicle, and mastoid. Shape of the muscle. Example is the deltoid, means triangular. Action of the muscle. For example, the adductor muscle are bring about its adduction. Now, we are going to talk about the arrangement of fascicles in the muscle. These are the most common patterns of fascicle arrangement. First is the circular, arranged in concentric rings. These are found surrounding external body opening. For this is the orbicularis muscle, converged toward a single insertion tendon. These are the muscles that is shaped triangular and fanned. Example is the pectoralis. Parallel, run parallel to the long axis. These are strap-like. Fusiform, spindle-shaped muscle. Examples are the biceps. Pinnate, attach obliquely to a central tendon. If the fascicle insert into only one side, it is called unipinnate. If the fascicle insert into opposite side, it is bipinnate. And multipinnate has multiple rows with central tendons.